So today was the first day of our something about Stedelijk, Studium Generale in our school. Never mind. So we had like a full day in the museum, and we're gonna have 2 more days of lectures and like people discussing interesting things. And the topic is what's happening in our brain. But I mean, basically they just talk about everything. And today we discussed I cannot say discussed really. So there was this guy, and he was talking about how alt-right was able to win the election in the US because of memes, which they didn't. Like, he was trying to tell us how they did that and why, while they didn't. Like, Trump only won because of how fucked up system is, because he really, really badly lost popular vote. So you cannot possibly describe like, oh, this is such an effective strategy, and this is such an effective strategy. He's gonna continue, I believe. While it actually didn't work, but also what a white savior guy thing to do, like to research how this very, very efficient technique of making memes works, like, and how it affects political process. And I was like, what's happening? Okay, and well, it was amusing to listen to, but especially the first frame, like he started with this photo of white dudes, and he compared them, like, he was like, yeah, they look like this, so he sort of made fun of them. And then he showed this picture of, like, a guy here, like, standing in front of the, futuristic city, and he was like, yeah, they probably feel like they're this, but they're actually, like, so pathetic. And I believe he was picturing himself like that too, because, like, from his narrative, it was kind of shining through. So he ended up, his whole story was about Basilisk, how you only can defeat him by using mirrors to deflect his gaze. What? So he ended up with, oh yeah, leftists are so inefficient and they're losing all the time because they just are not looking closely studying closely enough techniques of alt-right, which are, as we understand by now, their like main weapon is memes. So we have to like look into that in order to be more efficient. I was like, white supremacists acting in a white supremacy that was designed by and for them, and somehow they got upper hand in that, like, thanks to this really strategic and very efficient strategy of using memes. And I was like, what? So I actually, they asked like if we have questions. I didn't really have questions, but I was like, no, you're wrong. Like, you're really wrong. Like, how can you look into such tiny details while overlooking the situation that this is a system for white guys and of white guys? And it's like, we can't possibly be like, oh, we just have to do the same, because no matter what we do, we already are in this system that wasn't designed for us, like for black, disabled, female, homosexuals, etc., etc. As soon as you're not a white guy, the system is literally not made for you. And he was like, no, we just gotta use memes. What? And I told him, like, my concerns. Like, do you think maybe the system of white supremacy that is designed to cater white males and, like, white supremacists was created by them and, like, for them? Do you think maybe that's bigger issue? Like, that's where we should look at? And he was like, I completely disagree. And that was his whole response. It was like, I was like, why nobody's laughing? I would laugh, but I was so angry I couldn't. But it was so funny, like this level of discussion, like, yeah, maybe we're like looking into a wrong direction. Maybe we should look at the bigger picture and this and that. Like, I completely disagree. Of course you disagree with me because I disagreed with you completely in the first place. But like, this is not how discussion works, boy. Like, okay. So it was really funny for me. But yeah. But I was like writing on Facebook and being like, what the fuck? And that's why I completely missed the next speaker, who also was, of course, a white guy. The previous one, he said, I completely disagree. And he started saying how, but what do you suggest? And like, I'm responding to your narrative. Like, I'm not here to suggest you anything or teach you anything. You're teaching us, and I'm saying that that's wrong. And he said like, no, but we should do this because white guys, when they compete with each other, they work within the same system, so maybe that works for them. I don't know. And I told him, yeah, that's probably your white male perspective on that. And the crowd just was like, oh, you know, it was just such a moan. Everybody's like, oh, we don't want to hear anything about white and about the guy. And like, okay, whatever. So the next one was also a white guy who was so important that he couldn't possibly come today because he was like in a schedule. But then he was like, whatever, I have reasons, I'm not coming. So he like filmed the whole lecture where he was reading something I assume very important. And then like they tried to do Skype with questions that didn't work, whatever. And then the last person performing today was Elisabeth Orr. And she was like such a breath of fresh air. Like, oh my god, thank you so much. She just was like talking about how Democrats, Republicans, basically all same shit, and like, what are we even talking about? Also, really nicely goes with that previous guy that like they're already using the same techniques. But I'm not claiming that Democrats are actually left, but just saying that, whatever. And that was really nice to hear that perspective. And I thanked her for her performance. Really liked it. And so what I was talking about is, especially now, it's really relevant, and it's really important to voice that rhetoric that it's all shit. Because especially now after elections in the Netherlands, people are like, oh yeah, we won, it worked, our strategy worked for whatever. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're referring to, because yes, alt-right didn't get the majority in the parliament, but you, first of all, like, you still have a lot of alt-right like members in parliament. Then amount of female representatives dropped like by 9, and they already were like around a third or even less than a third. Like, it was such a little number, and everybody's like, yeah, we did it, and like, yeah, good fellas, good job. Like, what? It's so not done. Like, we so not achieved anything yet, and everybody's like, calm, yeah, we just won. What have we won? I don't know. So it's really important to know that it's still shit. Like, of course you maybe chose a little bit less of shit, but it's still shit. Like when you drink a tea and you put a spoonful of shit instead of sugar, you still feel it. It's not like you need a whole cup of shit to understand that it's shit. I don't get this logic, but whatever. So tomorrow is a new day in the museum, and we'll see how it goes. So Bye. Bye.